At the edge of a decaying town stood the dilapidated flour mill, known to the locals as the Old Mill. Once a bustling establishment, the building now presented a stark contrast, exuding an eerie ambience that deterred anyone from approaching. Within this mill lay a dreadful past. Decades ago, a terrifying incident had unfolded within these walls. One fateful night, the town was engulfed by a sudden and raging fire. The flour mill was swiftly consumed by flames, and the disaster's smoke shrouded the town. Though the fire brigade rushed to the scene, it was already too late. The building had turned to ashes, spreading fear and dread. However, the cause of the fire remained a mystery. Subsequently, the owner's family of the flour mill went missing. The town's inhabitants yearned to know what transpired after their abduction, but the truth remained buried in the darkness. That night, the townspeople were shocked by the news of a fire that broke out with screams. The old flour mill was engulfed in flames, and smoke blanketed the town. The firefighters rushed to the scene, but it was already too late. The building had turned to ashes, and a sense of tragedy spread. However, there was an enigma. The cause of the fire remained unknown, and the family that owned the flour mill at the time went missing. The townspeople wanted to know what happened to them, suspecting they were abducted by someone, but the truth remained buried in darkness. Decades later, the legend of the old flour mill resurfaced among the youth. Curious and adventurous, the young individuals set foot into this forbidden place, intrigued by its eerie presence. As night fell, with only the moonlight reflecting on the aged window panes, the youngsters cautiously stepped inside. The interior reeked of decaying wood, and their hearts raced with every echoing footstep. Nonetheless, they continued to venture deeper. Suddenly, a bone-chilling coldness enveloped them. They sensed a terrifying presence. The walls trembled suddenly, and they were certain that something inexplicable was there. The sensation intensified along with a faint, ghostly voice from somewhere, and a figure emerged within the darkness. Amidst the dimly lit surroundings, they caught sight of the figure. The family who was presumed deceased, the former owners of the flour mill, stood before them with lifeless eyes. They had been wandering, trapped between this world and the afterlife, without extinguishing the flames of vengeance. They still sought justice and continued to plead their case. The temperature suddenly dropped, sending shivers down their spines. They felt a menacing presence, an otherworldly force enveloping the room. The walls seemed to tremble suddenly, and they were convinced that something inexplicable was there. The atmosphere grew eerie as faint whispers emerged from seemingly nowhere, echoing through the desolate corridors. In the dim light, they saw movement. A family, believed to be long gone, stood before them with lifeless eyes. The owners of the abandoned mill, presumed to have perished tragically, were now haunting this desolate place. They wandered, seeking justice, their souls trapped in a liminal space between the living and the dead, never finding peace. The realization sent shivers down their spines, their fear palpable. The spectral figures seemed to materialize before them, reaching out from the abyss of the past. Their eyes held sorrow, anger, and an insatiable need for retribution. The air thickened with the weight of their presence, and the room seemed to close in, suffocating them with dread. The figures' voices rose, a chorus of agony and longing, filling the room with an otherworldly lament. The young explorers were paralyzed by fear, unable to escape the grasp of the phantoms. It was a confrontation with the unknown, a collision of the living and the dead, leaving an indelible mark on their souls. As they fled in terror, the atmosphere grew bitterly cold, causing their hearts to race. The walls trembled, and an inexplicable presence filled the air. Suddenly, the decaying walls began to vibrate, and an eerie voice emanated from somewhere. The ghostly forms of the former mill owners materialized, their lifeless gazes fixed upon them. With a flicker of light, they could make out the family, presumed to be deceased, standing in front of them. Lost souls, still seeking justice, wandering between this world and the next. They continued to seek retribution for the tragedy that befell them, their forms fading in and out of existence. A few years later, new residents moved into the vicinity of the old mill, disregarding the haunting rumors that had shrouded the area. They chose to ignore the legends, believing them to be mere tales, and set up their new home near the infamous building. They began their new life in this seemingly tranquil town, unaware that something was dreadfully wrong. Strange occurrences soon started to unfold. Objects moved of their own accord, and eerie sounds reverberated through the nights. The family began to hear voices, beckoning them, voices that sounded hauntingly familiar, the voices of the family that should have been long gone. Consumed by fear, the residents made a decisive choice to face the situation head-on. They returned to the old mill, determined to unravel the mystery that was unfolding before them. Once inside the forsaken building, they confronted the vengeful spirits. The spirits were relentless in their plight, but the residents, with empathy and understanding, engaged with them. They shared their past and empathized with their situation, encouraging them to find peace and move on. As the residents prayed for the tormented spirits to find peace and rest, the spirits gradually dissipated, their energy finding solace in the beyond. After the spirits found peace and moved on, a calmness settled over the old mill. The residents hoped that the tranquility was a sign of a peaceful future for this place. In the following days, the old mill was demolished, and a new park was established in its place. The townspeople worked to construct a new and hopeful future on this ground. Yet, they vowed never to forget the horrifying past and the lessons it imparted. They would tread cautiously into the future, mindful of the perils that could emerge from ignorance and neglect. The harrowing tale of the old mill would remain etched in their memories, a reminder to approach the unknown with wisdom and respect.